must not go back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
That help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, I'm your host Dan, and we're back again with Chapter 14, Cornelius Fudge. Talking some Chamber of Secrets here with Mollie, who's back again.
Hello everyone.
So, hopefully you enjoyed our last episode, which was a blast to record.
Yes, it was a wild ride.
It was a wild one. It was a big one. This one is a shorter chapter. It was less than 20 pages long, which is a little different. It's a different vibe. Mm-hmm. So there was still some really interesting things to happen in it, though. Obviously, they're working on the Mandrake potion. They're raising the mandrakes, which we'll talk about in a second in much more detail. But they're working on that to restore the people that have already been petrified. And again, whatever they do for Nearly Headless Nick. They discuss the new classes that they can take going forward, which is kind of interesting. We'll talk about that. But then we have a big Quidditch match for the House Cup is on the line. You got Gryffindor, you got Hufflepuff, because Hufflepuff's important.
Yes. Team Hufflepuff, woot woot.
But before they can even kick off the ground, something happens, and we learn that Penelope and Hermione have both been attacked by the monster from the chamber. And then school essentially shuts down, goes into like a lockdown mode.
Yeah. And
Harry and Ron decide that they have to talk to Hagrid. Going back from that, the cliffhanger that J.K. leaves in the last chapter of Hagrid opened the Chamber of the Secrets. Or Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets. The Chamber of the Secrets works too.
So many secrets.
So many secrets of Dumbledore. What? And then we'll go on. So they go out, they sneak out of the school, they go to visit Hagrid, and before they can really get into a discussion, there's another knock on Hagrid's door, and it's Dumbledore and Cornelius Fudge, our chapter title. Mm-hmm. And then that conversation takes place. So there's a lot going on here. Why don't we just kick it off with what Mollie and I really want to talk about in this chapter? Mandrakes.
Ooh, yes.
They throw out some interesting information about mandrakes.
Yeah. And
we see them for the first time as quote-unquote infants. Mm-hmm. And they're just being like pulled out of their pot for the first time and repotted or whatever. Well, now they're saying that Professor Sprout heard them or caught them throwing a loud and raucous party in one of the greenhouses.
Right.
How does that even happen? Does she leave, like, music and, like...
Yeah, that's true.
Does she leave, like, some music in there? Does she leave, like, strobe lights? Like, what happens?
Like, just hoping they'd find it.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe they have their own, like, mandrake music.
Them just singing?
Pitch squeaking.
It was interesting. In the last chapter, they mentioned, like, the ultimate result for these mandrakes is they're going to be, and I quote, chopped up and stewed.
Yeah.
And now they're throwing a loud and raucous party.
Right.
But they're not mature until they have moved into each other's pots. I know, right? That's suggestive as a heck for a Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Right.
But there's that. So again, I brought up on this podcast before, and Mollie and I have had side tangent conversations before about gnome representation and like the ministry and like intelligent life being treated as like objects.
Yeah.
Or like less than objects even. Like, I don't even know. Just tools for a larger purpose, for a wizard or witch's purpose.
Right.
And, like, the idea that you're going to chop up and stew a thing that is literally living a life in the greenhouse.
Right. Throwing a raucous party.
They're going through mandrake puberty right now? Is that
Right.
what's
I guess
essentially
so.
going?
Yeah.
I guess they also participated in the Lockhart Valentine's Day party. You know,
Yeah.
musical Valentines got
Right.
passed around, and now all of a sudden they're moving into each other's pots. It just happens, I guess.
I guess.
That's life.
They gotta make some mandrake babies.
Do they also say, like, birds and the bees since they're plants? Do they go, like,
Ooh.
through birds and the bees? Or do they,
Right.
like,
Right.
I don't know. Just different paths we can go down with the mandrakes, but
Do you think there was some walking home to their pots after this long, raucous party?
the walk of shame.
Yes. The mandrake walk of shame.
Sun's coming up. They need some of the sunlight to get over their hangover
Right?
of whatever they're hungover on. Doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yep. I think it happens.
So if they're having a loud and raucous party, like, I'm assuming their cries can still kill you, right?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to go in
Like,
there.
if you're walking by the greenhouse, you just die unless you have, like, the
Ooh.
earmuffs on? Or does that end after their infancy? I have no idea. But, like, these can actually seem to, like, move and have social cues and, like, interact with other things.
Right?
Again, I don't know. It just blows my mind again
Yeah.
that we're just kind of like, these seemingly intelligent beings are just like,
Well, maybe it's only when they, like, cry that they kill.
again, they're going through a moody teenage phase. So I'm
Right.
sure that's
There's a
like,
lot of crying. Maybe they're in a soundproof greenhouse.
what's an emo mandrake like?
Ooh.
Do they listen to My Chemical Romance?
Eyeliner, skinny pants, the whole works. Yeah.
Does one of their leaves just slowly droop and they have to, like, hair flick it, like, out of the
Right. Right. This is super fascinating, though. The resemblance of mandrakes to the human form has influenced many cultures over the centuries. In reality, the mandrake's root and leaves are poisonous and it can induce hallucinations. Yeah.
She's reading from the history, A History of Magic.
Yes.
It's a Harry Potter a book with all kinds of information. If you follow us on Instagram, we'll post a couple of pictures from the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And their drawings of mandrakes are really interesting too.
Yeah.
Like, I guess there are adult versions of mandrakes.
There are.
But anyway, we digress on mandrakes.
Oh, sorry. One last thing about
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
mandrakes. So they're extremely hazardous because they're poisonous and they're hallucinogenic.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to obtain the plant safely was to unearth its roots with an ivory stake attaching one end of a cord to the mandrake and the other to a dog. The dog could be encouraged to move forward by blowing a horn, dragging the mandrake with it. The sound of the horn would also serve to drown out the plant's terrible shriek.
Wow,
Oh,
that's aggressive.
yeah. So, there you have it.
And there's Mollie with A History of Magic.
Yes.
We should make that a segment, like a regular segment.
A History of Magic by Mollie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we've exhausted the mandrake topic.
Yes.
But speaking of magical creatures, students were asked to pick third-year classes, which they will have from third year on, I believe.
Yeah.
Or at least until their owls are done, and then they switch classes again, depending on what those owls are. But the classes that they're able to choose from, at least that were told to us here, was Care of Magical Creatures, Arithmancy, Ancient Runes, Divination, and Muggle Studies.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mollie and I would pick Muggle Studies because we would ace that.
Heck yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But what classes do you think you'd choose if it was you?
Yeah. I know for real on this topic, I would totally pick Care of Magical Creatures.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an easy first pick.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And then, I don't know, I'm not really, like, too jazzed up about the rest of them. I'm not gonna lie. I think not knowing, I would probably pick Divination.
No, no spoiler talk on any, because we have seen bits and pieces of these classes, because we've seen the rest of the series.
Yes. Knee-jerk reaction, not knowing, probably
Divination would be an interesting
Divination.
subject. We just posted a happy birthday post to the teacher of that subject on our Instagram. And we said on that post, like, it would be a fascinating subject.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea of casting the future, like forecasting the future and things of that nature. We can get into the specifics of divination either in the spoiler of this or in a future podcast, but there's pros and cons to that class.
For sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. I would probably... Hermione's right, because she talks about it as in, like, this kind of points the direction of where you're going to go in your career.
Right.
Like, I'm sure Bill, with what he's doing, Bill Weasley, with what he's doing, probably did ancient runes.
Right.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So, and Percy kind of talks about that. It's like, well, Charlie's more of an outdoorsy type, so he did care of magical creatures, and it's like, where do you think you're gonna, like, fit in the best?
Right.
For us, I think it's definitely care of magical creatures, and then we'd be taking a run at it. I'd probably be between divination and ancient runes.
Yeah.
I'd probably be between one of those two.
Yeah.
As much as I'd love the easy A of Muggle studies, I think I would just be like, why am I doing this?
Right. I'd at least want to be challenged. Yeah. I know myself. Arithmancy, I don't know. I would take that too.
There's value to it.
Yeah. I'd be torn between divination and arithmancy, I think.
Okay. I'd be between divination and ancient runes. So we're splitting it.
We're split, yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Anyway. So we have the big Quidditch match where the whole school goes to watch this end of season match. Or it seems like it's the end of the season because the House Cup's on the line, right?
Yeah.
And with the whole school gone, Hermione, right before leaving, decides to double back to the library, and Harry and Ron just go shoulder shrug because that's what Hermione does, is randomly run off to the library.
Right.
So they're like, okay, well, whatever.
Right.
Weird, but it's also her, so that's fine.
Right.
The unfortunate things happen. We see a softer side of McGonagall, who's more of a empathetic character and knows what A is coming for the school and coming for everybody, but what this will do to her friends and the impact that kind of has, which is a shocking thing. They also show that Hermione was carrying like a little hand mirror. Yeah. Which no one seems to know what the purpose of that was. We fast forward to Hagrid's hut. And he opens the door with a crossbow to the face. Which is like...
That's welcoming.
Yeah, that's a quite intimidating kind of circumstance. But even though this chapter is brief, and even though this particular scene is shockingly brief, it's really interesting, I think, in that, they ask Hagrid what's going on, and he's not even able to answer before the door gets knocked on again. And Dumbledore comes in with Cornelius Fudge, who I just want to make note right now, the Cornelius Fudge description that they have of this man. A very odd-looking man, rumpled gray hair and an anxious expression, and was wearing a strange mixture of clothes. A pinstriped suit. I'm going to pause so you can really get this full image. Pinstriped suit. A scarlet tie. a long black cloak, and pointed purple boots. And under his arm, he carried a lime green bowler, which is like a rounded hat.
I love it. I love it.
If it was just a pinstripe suit and a long black cloak, I think he was a mobster from the 20s. But then you get the like random, the random other stuff, the flashes of color.
Yeah.
The very odd-looking man is a fair description.
Yeah.
So you have them come in, and it's a very interesting dynamic between the two of them, where Fudge is obviously under some political pressure to get to the bottom of what's happening in Hogwarts, because obviously kids have written home about what's going on and all of the things. So he's under some political pressure, so you understand where Fudge is coming from.
Right.
And then Hagrid, obviously, having been called out on this previously, having been expelled in things relating to the chamber before, he's your scapegoat. He's your fall guy.
Yeah.
So he's like, Fudge. I love Fudge just kind of being like, well, if stuff's still happening, then you only spend a couple of days in prison. It's fine. Like, no harm done.
Right.
That prison is not fun.
Not fun at all.
Not a fun place to be. But Dumbledore is making a very... And this, I guess this is the first time that I really see Dumbledore being Dumbledore. In my view of stern, yet calm. Like, he's getting his point across, and you know it, and it's a very pointed, sharp thought that he's trying to get through to you.
Yeah.
But he's saying it in a very measured, calm way.
Yeah.
That resonates more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's that kind of gravity that he brings.
Right.
That instills such confidence in him, which we've talked before about, or that kind of legendary persona that he's got. And Fudge is not exactly the persona of confidence or strength here, because he's kind of fumbling through his words. He kind of shudders under this stare that Dumbledore gives him as he's saying what he's saying, which is only made worse by the entrance of one of the Board of Governors. I would love to know who the other 11 are.
Yeah, right? Because it just seems like it's Lucius.
I think it is just him pulling all the strings anyway.
Right.
Hey, we all know those school boards, and there's always that one parent or that one, member that kind of dominates the rest.
It's got to be like a team of it's got to be Crabbe and Goyle's parents.
Right. I could definitely see that. It probably is, for all we know. Yeah. But yeah, so he comes in and he says that the Board of Governors has unanimously voted for Dumbledore's resignation, which seems awfully convenient. Yet also somewhat believable, because, I mean, for goodness sakes, there's been a lot of kids getting petrified. Yeah. And they haven't seemed to be able to fix it. So, I mean, it's not a completely out of the ballpark idea of you're clearly not getting the job done. So.
Right.
Yeah. But I also agree with Fudge. And if this guy can't do it.
Yes.
Who are you possibly going to get to do a better job?
Right.
It's an interesting back and forth between the three of them. And again, Dumbledore just goes, if the board wishes it, it shall be done. Just a very whatevs. I'll deal with it. It's a very interesting take for Dumbledore. And then the other thing Dumbledore does is he glances over to the corner in which Harry and Ron are hiding. Yeah. Under the invisibility cloak. And seemingly Harry gets the feeling like he knows that they're there somehow. Yeah. And Dumbledore then says, however, said Dumbledore, speaking very slowly and clearly so that none of them could miss a word, You will find that I only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. You'll also find that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. I wonder where you've heard that before.
I wonder.
Who knows?
I
don't know. It doesn't sound familiar at all.
It's a mystery.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of bombshell lines from the man himself
Yep.
that seem to be pointed directly at Harry and Ron.
Yes.
Although, could also be pointed at Lucius and Fudge.
Yeah.
It's a lovely, and this is Dumbledore because he's smart enough to make a line like that where it could be viewed a bunch of different ways, but also in the same exact way.
Yes.
It's a really weird kind of circumstance.
Yes.
Whereas Hagrid's final lines, much less poetic, much less deep.
If anyone wanted to find out some stuff, all they'd have to do is follow the spiders. That'll lead them right.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying. Follow the spiders. That one's more of like, I think Fudge reacts weirdly to it. He's like, what?
He stared at him in amazement.
Yeah, because it's Dumbledore, again, could be taken in a bunch of different ways, all of them meaningful.
Yes.
Whereas Hagrid's final words are like, what nonsense are you rambling about?
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
To everybody there. Like, no one understands what he's talking about in that moment.
Yeah.
Where everybody understood every word of what Dumbledore said.
Right.
It was just a very interesting contrast in final quotes.
Yes.
It was a really interesting thing.
And he's also worried about Fang. He said that somebody needed to feed him while he was away.
I don't know about you, but especially you, because you have a dog at home.
Yes.
But I literally heard Fang like whimper as the door closed. Like I felt that and I heard it. That duo is for real.
Yeah.
That's a partnership.
Yeah. Side tangent. I'm starting to learn that my dog Odin is probably more like Fang than he is Dobby.
You're still going to dress him up in a pillowcase.
Oh, I am for sure. But he is like this 82-pound turkey. He's afraid of everything. And my brother was like, you should have named him Fang.
That's for your next dog.
Right. Exactly.
You should just have Odin and Fang.
Right.
There you go.
Oh, yes. Also, too, the lockdown that they're having, I just thought of, like, could you imagine Snape trying to do Zoom classroom?
He'd be so annoyed so quickly.
I know.
Isn't there, like, a video of, like...
Is there?
There's, like, some video of them doing, like, online teaching.
Okay.
And... it's a spoiler thing. Because there are spoilers to it. But, yeah, there's a video that someone made of them doing online teaching, and Harry and Snape go back and forth.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll show it to you after.
Yeah.
I
didn't know that.
I would like to see, like, we see McGonagall talking to the Gryffindors.
Yeah.
And then struggling to get out of the portrait hole. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, why did you have to mention, like, her trying to, like, really get out of the portrait hole? Whatever. Anyway, it would be interesting to hear what the other heads of houses told their houses.
Yeah.
And if there were any differences.
Yeah.
I don't think we mentioned in the last chapter during the Valentine's Day extravaganza that Lockhart had, and he's just referencing different teachers, and like Flitwick is particularly good at like enchantment charms or something like that.
Yes.
And they just like, I imagine J.K. Rowling just in her mind cutting to Flitwick and his hands just like his head in his hands just going like, what are you doing?
Why? Yeah.
And Snape just being disgruntled and the whole thing. But I'd like to know their different, like, I can imagine McGonagall, Sprout, and Flitwick would take generally the same tone.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Snape wouldn't take a concerned tone, but it wouldn't come off as warm, is I guess what I'm saying.
I just feel like he'd walk in there and he'd be like, you're all fine. And then he'd leave.
You're Slytherins. You're
Yeah.
You're good. I use the password pureblood to get in here, so
Right.
we're fine.
We're fine.
We're all good. Yeah. We're good, bro. It's all good.
We're good.
Snape would definitely use the word bro. On that note, we'll take a pause, and we're going to get into some spoilers. Yeah, we'll probably talk some divination. We'll probably talk some more Cornelius Fudge. All right, we'll be right back.
Amazing! This is just like magic!
All right, so we are back with the spoiler section, and in between sections, it was occurring to me, like, in Goblet of Fire, there's a moment with Dumbledore that have spawned, like, so much animosity towards the movies, where, you know, Harry, have you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, that kind of thing. And
Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
Right. And in the book, it specifically says Dumbledore said that calmly. And in the movie, it was very much not calm. It was him literally shoving him into a shelf or something like that.
Yeah.
And with what I was saying with Dumbledore in that last scene of him calmly speaking, but clearly there's an intended force behind what he's saying. And I was just thinking, like, yes, he probably said that calmly in the book, because that's what it says, calmly. But I think to say he wasn't upset at that moment, I think is not true either. I think he was upset. So he was calm, yes. Yeah. Did he want to find out what the heck happened? Oh, yeah, he did. He wasn't pleased at that moment either. So I think it was probably a combination of the two.
Definitely.
Like, you read calmly, and I think he said it calmly, but he was also like, what the heck did you do?
Yes.
But anyway, I that's just a random in-between thought that I just had.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So, divination has been brought up. And as you put it, knowing what you know now, you wouldn't have chosen divination. Or would you have? No?
I wouldn't have.
No,
Trelawney would have drove me nuts.
So, it's an interesting thing, because, and I've had this debate with other Harry Potter fans before, and it's like, is Trelawney a bad divination teacher?
Ooh.
Because it's like, so we see two, right? We see Trelawney and we see Friends.
Right.
Who have two different styles of doing divination.
Very different.
One is more like the textbook fortune teller type way of doing it.
Right.
And then the other one is more astronomy based, like celestial reading the signs kind of divination. Two very different forms.
Very different.
But, like, I think Trelawney, it's weird because it comes off as she doesn't know what she's doing because she, quote unquote, can't make predictions.
Right.
But I think she knows the techniques, and she knows the symbolism behind everything. I think she knows the subject.
Oh, absolutely.
So to say that she's a bad, like Lockhart, or Umbridge, like, she's a teacher that knows her subject.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say like she's a bad teacher per se.
She's eccentric.
I think it would be a personality issue for me, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an interesting...
Yeah.
I just get the feeling like most people take her as unqualified or not a great source of information because she's eccentric.
Yeah.
And because she can't seem to make a prediction that counts.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is she's actually a legitimate seer.
Right.
Right. She has made prophecies that have come true.
Yeah.
And people have witnessed these. And they're kind of a big deal. So she's legit. And I feel like she's legit in two ways. She's just weird.
Yeah.
And I think people just judge her based on the weirdness of it.
Also, too, though, I mean, of course, anyone would get desperate with, like, Umbridge judging them. But, like, I think it's also... Maybe what drives me nuts about her is somewhat the same thing that drives me a little bit crazy about Lockhart. Not the fact that, like, Lockhart... It's like the idea that... Not that she's like Lockhart in terms of... It's the fakeness of it to a certain degree. When they do introduce Trelawney and she's like, oh, Harry, you're gonna die on the first day. And it's like, bum, bum, bum. And then they go to...
She wasn't wrong then.
No, she wasn't. She wasn't.
She wasn't making a true prediction, but
Right.
she wasn't wrong either.
Right. But, like, then they go to, you know, Transfiguration with McGonagall. And she's
Right.
like, oh, okay. You guys had Trelawney. Who's dying now?
Right.
That's my issue.
And some people maybe, and I've been accused of being such a Ravenclaw on this podcast by you and by others, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I will accept that and be proud of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Ravenclaws specifically have a problem with it because it's not a tangible thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't truly, really learn it. Like,
Yeah.
you can, but you also can't.
Right.
And I think that's why many of the Ravenclaws liked Firenze better, because they see stars. They get those signs. Those are a little bit
Concrete.
more scientifically based.
Right.
Whereas her style is more mystically based. So they can't hold on to it. They can't grasp that fact.
Right.
So they automatically trash it as
Right.
like, it's not worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
Hermione, not worth my time. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Right.
Do we ever actually see Hermione come around on the fact that Trelawney has made predictions
I
that
don't
have come
think-
true?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we ever see her like come to that realization of like, okay, Trelawney is maybe an actual seer.
Right.
And that's why Dumbledore holds on to her for this entire time, is because he knows she's legit.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
she might not be able to do it on command, but
She is legit.
she's legit.
Yeah. I think if I could take, like, a weekend course in divination, I would. Like, a weekend seminar. Because I find it fascinating.
She would be the type of person that would do that type of seminar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I find it fascinating, but I don't know if I would want to spend, like, a whole year, a whole 3, 4 years on it. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's weird though. Like, how do you ever really truly find out that you are one for real? If you like go into this trance when you do, and you
Yeah.
don't necessarily remember it, it's like a
Right.
fog.
Right.
Someone has to witness it and be like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's almost like the opposite of, like, somebody hypnotizing you. Like, you've hypnotized yourself almost to a certain degree.
like, does she even fully, like, I know her relative was a renowned seer
Yeah.
who was famous for it.
Right.
But it seems like she's basing everything that she is off of a reputation, not actual proven
Mm-hmm.
instances in her own career.
Yeah.
But obviously, Dumbledore is like, witnessed something specifically, and he's like, hey, I can't let this person go.
Well, do you think, though, it's also...
Because he's not a big believer in it either.
Right. Well, then that comes down to, like, do you think that he's keeping her because of the prophecy and he doesn't want to let her go into the world because he's worried about her safety?
Oh, 100%.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
So...
It's definitely that. 100, yeah. It's definitely that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, you know, he keeps the subject around and he keeps her around just
Right.
because of that. Because,
Right.
again, like I said, more the academic types like McGonagall and, like, Snape probably and, like,
Right.
Dumbledore just don't really believe in the subject.
Ooh, what if, like... Oh, it's full circling to, like, memory charm stuff.
Mm.
What if some of it is like what if you're really good with memory charms, or
As in,
terms
like,
of-
manipulating someone's memory
yeah,
to make a prophecy come true in some way?
yeah,
Or alter them so that you can say a prophecy came true.
yeah, or if you're like a Legilimens, or
Oh, yeah, that could be a way of skirting it,
of-
like cheating it, like a Houdini kind of
yeah,
trick of, like, knowing the trick in the room to...
right,
Could be.
yeah,
It's an interesting way to think about it.
right,
So then, do you say that seers, as thought of in the Harry Potter universe, don't exist at all, and they're just good at other tricks?
Maybe. I mean, I think that there are some probably...
Because how does that magic work? Like, a prophecy is made, and then it just magically, like, pops up in the Department of Mysteries.
Right, yeah.
It's like...
Right.
So it's regulated somehow, right?
It has to be. Well, I think, too, like...
Which also begs the question, like, if you're in the Department of Mysteries, if you're working there, and you're in the prophecy room...
Yeah.
And you see a prophecy being made. I get you can't pick it up or hear it if it's not about you.
Right.
But you know seers are out there then.
Right.
Quite a few of them, apparently. Wouldn't you want to, like, know who they are so you can, like, track them? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. You know that... Okay, side tangent. The movie with Tom Cruise... where they have, like, the commit the murder thing, and, like, they have the 3 twins.
Okay.
And that, like, do you know what movie I'm talking about?
Minority Report is the movie that you're thinking of.
Yes!
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm on. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So, making predictions, and it's an interesting topic.
It is. And like we said, I think divination can be an interesting class. I think there are some benefits to it, although I agree with you. 4 years might be a bit.
Yeah.
Might be a bit much.
Yeah.
A year of it. Like, well, we were talking about on one of the last episodes, Elizabeth brought up the idea of, like, wise care of magical creatures. You feel like that should be a thing earlier on. At least a basic level of it.
Right.
Of, like, just recognizing, like, what that might be.
Right.
And maybe they're counting on magical students to know that from just being around a house or the magical world. Anyway, shouldn't you kind of be required to take at least one of each? And then, like, after owls, specialize if you wanted to?
Yeah.
And dive into it?
Yeah.
Like,
It's pretty early on to, like, decide your fate.
13?
Yeah.
Hey, decide your major as a freshman in high school, your college major as a freshman.
And then you can't change.
Right.
I changed my major like 3 times.
That'd be horrifying.
It would be.
And I would be Ron in this one, where it's like, I can't think of that. Like, it's beyond me. Like, I can't. Or I'd be Hermione, of completely overwhelmed by that. It's like, I can't do this, but that'd be crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I agree. I think care of magical creatures should be like a year 1 thing. And then I think you should have at least a little bit of the others before you really, like, make a call on it.
Right.
Like, maybe year 3 is that you have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then you make a call by year 4, what you liked.
Mm-hmm.
So you could still take an owl on it.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Let us know what classes you would take. Maybe that's a poll we could put up on Twitter.
Ooh, I like that.
Of what classes you guys would take.
Yeah.
I'm taking off care of magical creatures because I feel like everybody would want to choose that one.
Oh, for sure.
So I think I'll make the Arithmancy, Ancient Runes, Divination, Muggle Studies, the poll on Twitter.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting one.
Yeah. I don't know, though, if I'd want to take it with the blasted-ended...
The blast-ended Scroots?
Yeah.
I always envision them as, like, a cockroach, but also a lightning bug.
Yeah.
Like, you combine the 2 of those things.
Yeah. And
then that's a blast-ended Scroot.
Whenever I think of them, though, I just think of them walking, like, with a leash. they're blasted-ended Scroots.
I love the...
blast-ended Scroots, I don't know.
I love the creatures that were in the maze in Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. They didn't even touch on that in the movies.
I know, I was disappointed. Probably because it's just, like, money at that point. Because I'm sure it's, like, the Sphinx. That'd been awesome.
I know.
I would love to see it. And we haven't even seen one in Fantastic Beasts. And it's Fantastic Beasts is the name of the movie. Yeah. Before I get into that rant, we should probably end it.
Yes, we could keep going.
Because that's a rant that could go on for like another 10 minutes. As we're approaching another Fantastic Beasts movie coming out soon.
Yeah.
So I'm sure be on the lookout for Molly and I to have very strong opinions of that one. I'm sure we'll both go see it when it comes out.
Oh, totally, because I love me some Dumbledore.
Oh, you'll get a bunch of secrets about Dumbledore.
I cannot wait. I have so many questions.
It'll be good. All right. So with that, we'll end it here. Be on the lookout for many polls coming through our Twitter. We're having a character kind of bracket style setup. So be on the lookout for those. Follow us at Hogwarts Pod. And for Dan and Molly, thank you so much for listening and hope you enjoyed it.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.